Greetings, everybody. I am Santai Gábor, and this is Hungarian History Podcast. I have started a sub-series in this podcast, which is dedicated to the heroes of 1956 and the Revolution. Not only those who fought, but their descendants, sons and daughters, who were born at the time or were born shortly after. They are recalling the memories, their childhood memories, or the recollections of their parents in these series of podcasts. So, the first guest speaker of my series is a very special author of a book. I am honored to have this author with us, Levente Batizy, or Batizy Levente, who is the writer of this book, The Biggest Hole in the Iron Curtain, Batizy Story. It is available on Amazon. And yes, let's get started with the first series. So this is the Hungarian History Podcast, and our guest is an author. He is Levente. Please, Levente, introduce yourself. Where are you from?
So I was born in Budapest, 1946. I am one of 14 kids. My dad was Gustav Batizy. He was a physician in Budapest. We left Hungary in 1956, during the revolution. Yes. But I wrote a book, The Biggest Hole in the Iron Curtain, which chronicles our family history, our escape, our capture, and then final location in the United States, period. The reality is my family's history and why we ended up leaving Hungary dates back to 1241. During the Battle of Mohi, one of my distant ancestors, Bati, son of Marcus and Batisfalvi, for his heroic deed, was given the title of a baron by King Bela IV.
That's amazing, Levente, because my ancestor was given the same thing by the same king. Imagine.
Yes. So that title, was strengthened again by Francis Rákóczi in 1700s. And as you know, Hungarian nobility was viewed as a threat to the monarchy after 1526 when the Habsburg Empire, ruled Hungary. And the Hungarian noble class became kind of the champions defending national identity. And, where I'm going with this is that the reality is that when after World War II, when the nobility, that title was abandoned, not only was it abandoned, but anybody, was with the family legacy of being from nobility was actually discriminated against openly.
Oh, yes.
And
I know, Levente, because my family was deported from Czechoslovakia right after the war. My grandfather was a schoolmaster there, Hungarian nobility as well. So he was deprived and kicked out of the country. So my family is full of this, aware of this story, but our listeners are not. So it's very good that you are pointing out to these things. Thank you. And
so my grandfather, who was chief of counsel for the Budapest Police Department in the 1920s, obviously at that time, he still had the birthright of a baron and made him high profile, in society during his adult life. The irony is that my father, by extension, inherited the same title of nobility, even though my grandfather died in 1933, where my father was only a teenager. He ended up being discriminated against when communism took over after World War II. So this had a huge impact on my father's decision during the 1956, revolution.
Oh, yes.
So, my saga, my story, in October 23rd, 1956, on that Wednesday afternoon, I got home from school and was playing in the front of the Reformed church located on Szilágyi Desert. I heard a large noise and singing in the afternoon, and my brothers and I ran toward the crowd, and we met them at the at General Józef Bem, the Polish freedom fighter, statue, and that was our first introduction. There we heard the crowd singing the national anthem, reciting the 16-point demands that was drafted by the university students. And then we followed the crowd over to the parliament, where they again recited the 16 and demanded that, their voice would be heard.
Yes.
After that moment, the crowd decided to go over to the radio station, and it was getting dark, so my brothers and I went home. My dad, fearing, not knowing where we were, fearing that we were caught up with the crowd that headed to the radio station, went out looking for us. That's when the shots occurred, the first shots of the revolution. My dad, being a physician, set up a first aid station to take care of the wounded and, declare the dead. And that was the start of his involvement in the revolution. He felt compelled to join the council for his district. And as you remember, back then, they ended up, a lot of the Communist Party members were tagged, and the sad part was a lot of them, the mob hanged them and, killed them. And some of them were then judged by the district council people.
Oh, yes. I remember. Very story, yes.
Yeah, we could walk down the city in Budapest and you could see some of the Ave, the Communist, Party members hanging from the tree. So that occurred as part of the revolution. What happened was, my father got very involved. Probably part of it being a physician, seeing the people that were killed at the radio station. Part of it having been discriminated against for the 10 years following World War II, before the revolution broke out. I think that he felt compelled, to be part of this potentially getting rid of, the suppression that was the Hungarian people were under as a result of World War II and the occupation of the Soviet forces. When the Soviets came back in on that fateful November 4th, I remember early in the morning hearing it was like a thunder woke everybody up as the tanks rolled into Budapest. We lived right across the parliament. We were on the Buda side at Szilai Desertér, and the parliament you can see out of our apartment window across the street. And it was my father immediately knew and heard, through communication that the Soviet Union had now reinvaded, Hungary. The numbers were 60,000 Russian Soviet troops poured back into Hungary to put down a revolution. My father now knew that the likelihood of Hungary winning the revolution was very slim. Only the potential hopeful involvement of the West would save the revolution. He immediately decided.
Yes? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask that did your father listen to the Radio Free Europe? So,
absolutely. We were told
promising help.
Exactly. So my father went to Vienna. He escaped to Vienna, and in my book I chronicle his heroic escape because he left and in an ambulance with 3 other people that were part of the city council for his district.
Yes.
And in hope of getting help from the West.
Yes.
So his ambulance was stopped near the border, and he, by a canal, he dove in, and shots were fired, and they were sure that he was killed because he took his doctor coat off, emptied his doctor bag up, and it floated. And in fact, we were told by the other people that were in the ambulance that my dad was killed. But he made it to Vienna. He unfortunately found out that there was no help from the West. So he had a big decision to make. He's now the father of 12 kids. Does he come back and potentially risk getting captured? And obviously, because he was part of the city council for his district, he was going to be tried.
For sure. Yes.
So he did come back. He came back in because at that time, the borders were porous. The control over the border was not totally sealed. So he came back in, and immediately he wanted our family, to go ahead and escape, make the trip again, try to escape to the West.
It was a heroic decision of his because he didn't leave his family behind.
No. The unfortunate thing for me is that my father, although he had 12 kids, he was divorced. Mm-hmm. My mom and the first 6 kids, and then my father, my stepmother with her 6 kids. So, there was a lot of back and forth. My mother didn't want to let, all the kids go. They battered back and forth. But as the time was ticking away, the borders, the fighting was subsiding and was obviously in favor of the Soviet troops that was overwhelming the Hungarian, freedom fighters.
Yes.
And, I think the tipping point was one day I was looking out the window of our 2nd-story apartment toward the parliament, and I was watching the soldiers, fighting for the revolution, shooting over toward the parliament where the Soviet troops were stationed. And, the Soviet troops would return a fire. The soldiers, the revolutionary soldiers would fall, the ambulance would come and pick him up and take him away. And this continued. And, my stepmother said, get away from the window. So it's time for supper. We sat down to have our meal, and then an explosion. Our apartment came under and was partially destroyed. The smoke bellowed. We ran down to the basement to get away. But so our security further eroded. And at this time, my father said, we have to go. We can't stay. And so they made arrangements. My stepmother, my father, and 11 of the 12 kids went, and, we took the train western, toward the west, and we went toward Pécs, and we met a person who my father had contacted who knew the border, and you met with the border person, and he was going to go ahead and lead us across, to safety, to Vienna, to Austria. But, when you have 11 kids and mom and dad, you're so, you can't hide it. It's hard to blend in like this is a nothing. And of course, we were captured close to the border, and we were taken to a detention center. My parents were interrogated, and, for 4 or 5 days, my parents begged, the kids, we had a 6-month-old, let us at least go into a restaurant to get the kids, something to eat other than sausage, coffee, and black bread, which is what we were given when we were at the detention home. So, Christmas Eve, the border guards, the guards that were guarding us when they let us go to the restaurant, were nowhere to be seen. My dad said, this is it. We either do it now or we'll never get a chance. And so we went across the border. We arrived at early dusk on Christmas Day. And it was, we were helped into a school that was closed for, Christmas break in Austrian village. My parents gave away their rings and watch and whatever little things they had and traded it for a ticket.
Yes.
It's always hard. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's hard. It's very hard, Levente. I can feel with you. How old were you at that time?
I was 10 years old.
Just 10. So it was hard on you very much. But your dad is a hero. So
so I left my mom.
Yes, she is.
Give me a second.
Okay.
So anyway, we ended up downtown Vienna after we took the train. It was festive. Vienna was lit up, celebrating Christmas. They had none of the war damages from World War II that was still evident in Budapest. The interesting thing for a 10-year-old, you see these beautiful buildings that were unblemished from the war. They didn't suffer like Budapest did, at the end of World War II.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So we were taken to a police station for where, a lot of the refugees were taken, and my dad who spoke German, went ahead and went to the American Embassy, and we got a sponsor from International IRC, International Rescue Committee, and they hooked us up with a church
Yes?
sponsor. And the irony of it is that just like today with immigration in the United States, they were preoccupied, worried that with the immigrants coming to the United States, that there would be communist infiltrators. So out of the 200,000 refugees that left Hungary during the 1956 revolt, only 20 to 25,000 made it to the U.S. The U.S. was not open as people think it was, for the Hungarian refugees.
Oh, it's a shame, isn't it?
But anyway, we ended up here, and then my father started back. They treated him like he just graduated from medical school, and he had to go through his internship and residency, and eventually we blended into the American society.
And which was the city you arrived?
So when we arrived, we ended up in New Jersey at Camp Kilmer. Camp Kilmer was a abandoned World War II U.S. barracks, and that was the refugee center where they took us. And we went through the usual things to make sure that we were not communist infiltrators and make sure we were disease free and so forth. And we waited there till my dad was able to secure some kind of employment to start his training as a physician in the United States. We ended up, our first permanent location was Chicago, Illinois.
Yes. Yes, I have been to Chicago. It's a fantastic town.
Yeah. So, then my father finished his internship year as a Chalet Curry, the first year as a full-fledged physician there, got his license, and then we moved to Massillon, Ohio, where he worked a couple of years so that he would be able to support the family, and then he got into a psychiatric residency in Columbus, Ohio.
That was a good point, I think, already. And how did you experience these things as a little kid?
Well, I mean, you arrive. None of us spoke English. We were very poor because you have 11 kids. We got hand-me-downs from church. The church, provided some used clothing and things. We were kind of ridiculed, but, we came from a very strong family. My father believed in education, believed in preserving our Hungarian heritage, and strong, family value. And that sustained us. Even though we were poor, when I look back on it, we never felt poor because we had the love of the family.
The most important thing is the love. You are right, but it must have been very hard to your father to start from the scratch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, as I mentioned, I left my mom, my grandma, and my oldest sister back in Hungary. And to show that, my dad, who was worried that the discrimination that he felt post-World War II as a result of his birthright that he never really got to enjoy because he was 14 years old when his dad died, he didn't want that discrimination to affect his children. After we left, in 6 months later, my mom and my sister were interrogated. And, of course, they said my dad was the one that did it. They had nothing to do with it. But my sister, even though she was an excellent student in her class, she had a hard time finding a job. Nobody wanted to take her because she was labeled, as a
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
anti-communist person.
True. I remember uh, how these people were handled, mistreated. Yes, that was a shame.
You know, um, the I think I looked to see, there was, I think, like 22,000 people that were imprisoned after the revolution, another 13,000 who were imprisoned without any trials, and I think somewhere around 250 to 300 people were executed for taking part in the revolution.
That we know about, and how many children
Yeah.
were hanged,
So,
and all the crimes that are committed, and the collaborators who are still with us, and the list is can be increased. Yes.
you know, there's always a hole. There's a hole in my heart.
Oh yes.
Budapest will always be my.
And did you ever have you ever visited back?
Yes. So we've been back. In fact, I was there last year, and I've been back. I try to go back as often as I can. And truth is that if I didn't have kids and grandkids here, I would move back to Hungary in a heartbeat.
I believe you. So you have grandchildren, don't you?
Yes,
Oh, they must be very proud of you and Hungary as well.
yes. They've all visited. They all feel the connection.
Excellent. And do they feel identity, some Hungarian identity?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, that is very, very nice and rare. Many people, first generation people, don't even speak any Hungarian language.
Yeah,
And there are millions in the world who cannot speak Hungarian already, but they have the roots. And
yeah,
I have this mission to tell them the truth, because they have nowhere to learn it from except from books that you write or podcasts we make or on the social media.
yeah,
And I am very, very happy and glad and blessed that I had the possibility to talk to you, the one who is an author of this whole book. And I wonder how much effort you made when you wrote that book. And it must have been a very spiritual and very deep touch. And
yeah.
when did you publish it?
I published it. In fact, I think it was. In fact, let me just see what the original published date was. 2019. So, throughout my adult lifetime, people would ask, and I would go through the story of what happened and how I came to the United States. And they would say, you ought to write it down. And my kids and grandkids says, Papa, you got to write it down or it will be lost.
David,
So,
right? It
Yeah.
was a brave
So
thing because many people don't have the power to recall these memories because they are too painful.
yeah,
It makes a strong man to write them down.
in 2006, I wanted to return for the 50th anniversary, and my son and I went there, and that's what gave me the impetus to now I got to really write it down. So we were there, in 2006 for the 50th anniversary of the 1956
I
revolt.
remember.
And the irony was that it was, even though a lot of the ceremonies were blocked from the public, as I don't know if you were there, and were you there in 2006?
Yes, 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 it was. And I remember what was going
Yeah.
on. Yes.
Yeah. So I marched, I marched with him, and even though we couldn't do the official ceremony because there was the protest and the marches, I got to feel that same feeling that I had in 1956.
Deja vu feeling.
Yeah. So we took pictures. My son and I took pictures, and it's in the book. It was a wonderful homecoming, and the irony is that even though it was protest march, it showed that freedom because in 56 you couldn't have done that. But in 2006 you could protest.
At least. Then the
Yes.
then the horsed, the mounted police arrived. Remember?
I know. Because we got caught up in it. The tear gas and the whole thing. We were right there in the midst of it.
It must have been a story to tell at home.
Yes. But you know what? I felt proud. I felt so proud
I
that
imagine
people
that.
had a voice. That people had a voice.
Yes, the best part of Hungary left the country or was chased away, and whoever remained here were oppressed, and,
I know.
and people here just couldn't speak about it. I was in my teens in the 80s, and it was a taboo. So even in the family, people just whispered about the events, and it was a hard thing to talk about. People were punished and criminalized for talking about 1956, and it is a big thing that these recollections should be spread to the world. Imagine Levente, I just watched a movie that was made in 2022 on National Geographic about the Soviet Union, and they haven't spared a word for the 1956 freedom fight of Hungary. Here we are, so these
Yes.
stories must be told, and your book must be distributed and read and offered to people. I am going to put the Amazon link on my pages about your book with your approval, and
Yes.
tell it to the people to read it, because the younger generation is ignorant, unfortunately.
Thank you.
I thank you. I am grateful to you that for your efforts and your for great heart that you were able to do this such a magnificent thing, to write a book about these experiences. It is very hard and difficult.
I know. I love Hungary.
Hungary loves you too, I guess. So we are doing the right thing when we are talking about it. So maybe people can be inspired and, and take action. Any action is a good action. And now in these episodes, I am invoking all the stories, big and small, all the stories of first or second generation 1956ers, because there are 8 million people in the world with Hungarian roots knowing little or nothing, next to nothing about Hungary's history.
I know.
And this deed, 1956, was one of the greatest deed of Hungary, and you were part of it. So it is just something amazing.
Well, thank you for having me.
Pardon?
Thank you for having me.
I am very thankful, and now I say goodbye in this podcast, but I would like to stay in touch with you in the future.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
I look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It was the 21st episode of Hungarian History Podcast. I was Szántai Gábor, and don't forget to check out the Amazon, The Biggest Hole in the Iron Curtain, The Batizy Story by Levente Batizy. You will find the link under this post. Thank you very much for staying with us and tune in. We are going to have more interesting interviews in a short time. Goodbye. Sziasztok!